do the video too. Okay, so let's give that 1 second to boot up here. The nice part about this system is it's really going to be designed for lighter duty interior doors. And it's also nice because maybe you have a customer that's not ready to commit to a door operator. I think all too often when we give examples on how to install things and how to use them and all of the features, we get so caught up in the features and we get so caught up in the in just all of the things that it does, we don't stop and think about how do we sell that? How do we communicate that to the customer? Because if I can't communicate to the customer how this product is going to solve their needs, you'll never sell it. If you can't sell it, you're never going to install it. So understanding how to sell it, understanding the attributes that it has, and understanding how to install it are all part of the whole equation. Okay. For those asking for links, yes, I will grab the link for the Locksmiths United meeting that will follow this right after. I will post that in here. If not, just on Facebook Live. We'll be on Facebook Live. So it's super easy to find it. And I do try and make these things as easy to find as possible. I would like to go ahead and address it now too. I know we're doing a lot. I know we have a lot of meetings. I know we do this meeting every Monday. And then we have the once a month meeting is the one that comes after this. I try and give people as much notice as I can. However, I'm just a working guy too. In fact, everything that you're going to be seeing in this meeting is jobs that I've done. I've simply just recorded them, documented them, categorized them, filed them, made them, publicly consumable. And that is what you see. You see literally what we do day to day, each and every day. So it's very difficult. There's not very many people that are actually doing the work in the field, installing the hardware, bidding the jobs, getting the jobs, doing them, documenting them, recording them, and putting everything out there for you to see. It just doesn't happen very often.
Wayne?
So that's why I don't have a whole lot of time to really push things. I put it out there where I can. So the weekly meeting goes on YouTube Live and the monthly meeting goes on Facebook Live. So I will be there in either one of those, and I will try and get you those links as well.
And we're going to be installing the mechanical door closer along with an automatic door operator that will bolt directly to it. We're going to go through the mounting of the door closer fairly quickly. If you'd like more detail on this, make sure you check out our other video installing this 4040 XP closer. Here, John's just tightening everything up.
So that's going to be the basis of it, is that 4040 XP closer. Okay. And then you're also going to need to know, as you're bidding this job, are you going to be mounting that parallel, or are you going to be mounting it in the 90-degree function? Right now, you can see that John's mounting this with the plate so that the arm is actually going to be parallel. Parallel means that the arm of the door closer is going to be parallel with the door. Okay. The 90-degree option means it'll be basically 90 degrees off of it. So we need to know whether we're going to be mounting this door closer to the frame of the door or on the door itself. Why is that important, and why do I need to know that now? Does anybody have a clue? We can put it in the chat section if you'd like to. Why is that information important now? Whether that door closer gets mounted on the door or not. Well, because we're going to have an additional drop-down plate if we mount the operator and the closer on the door. We also need to know this information. If we do want to install that operator later, we have to have enough room and clearance for it. So that means if you have a ceiling right here, you can't mount that up there. All right? It's not going to happen. You're not going to be able to mount that operator on top of it. So with this particular scenario, the operator would actually get mounted below it down here on the bottom part. It's free, it's clear, there's a ton of room in there. We're not going to have any issues getting that mounted in here. Okay. So let's continue with our install.
Fairly quick preview of how the door closer is mounted.
So you can see this is the parallel mount right here, parallel with the door in the frame.
Comes with a drop-down plate for this application. We'll make sure we order that drop-down plate.
So you can see if we back up just one little skosh right here.
Comes with
let's see.
A drop-down plate for this application.
You can see how we center punch. We got one screw in right here to hold the plate in place, and it butts right up against the doorstop. And now I have center punched all of these other holes so that you want to make sure that they get centered. I don't think people really realize how much strain you can put on hardware. If I drill this hole and I just shove the screw in there and I drill this hole all the way at the edge of this hole for this mounting bracket, and then I come over here and I drill this one all the way over here, and then I come over here and I drill this one way over here, you're going to get a lot of friction as that bolt, as that screw tries to center down into the center and self-center into this housing here. It's going to try and move that plate over to center it to the center of the hole. Centering your holes and center punching those center holes is so much more important than people give credit for. It is very important to have a very clean installation. This is really going to be true installing anything, continuous hinges, door closers, operators, or anything else. Centering those holes is going to make all the difference in the world and make your job go a lot better and make it look a whole lot more professional.
We made sure we ordered that drop-down plate because there's not a lot of room to work.
So you can see the drop-down plate. It's just going to be 4 screws here. Could we have possibly mounted this up here with 2 screws and through bolts? Maybe. It's going to be a really bad idea to do that, though, because what happens when you only have 2 in a straight line? Now it's going to wiggle wobble, okay? And as much force as this thing's going to take, you do not want that. You need it to be on a flat surface and mounted to a flat surface, which is why this plate is perfect. You still do. People say, well, I could just buy a drop down plate. You could, but this one comes with the actual hardware so that the screws, when they pop out the backside of this plate, they're dead flush with that plate. They're not going to come through and poke the glass. They're not going to be too short. And you only have about 3 threads to catch on there because it's 1/4-inch plate or so. Okay. So invest the money, bid the job correctly, add the plate into it, along with the closer, along with everything, and make money while you're doing it. Make it profitable. Don't throw this in and add it in for free on your own dime. You need to know that you need this plate, and you need to charge for that plate as well.
Work with on the frame itself. So you're going to need that template and that plate.
I'll go back one.
And make sure we ordered that drop-down plate because there's not a lot of room to work with on the frame itself. So you're going to need that template and that plate. It'll have the holes pre-drilled. So it's literally plug and play. Here's all the different adjustments: door sweep, back check, spring tension. Now John's measuring the force it takes to open the door.
Okay, so how many people out there carry a door force measurement tool with them in most cases at any time? I do. Fish scale will work too. You just simply hook it on the door. All you're doing is measuring pounds per pull for the open. So whether you push or whether you pull, it doesn't matter. Yes, John's got one right on his desk. Look at him. Look at him. He's prepared. Okay. That's it. That's it. And it's got a little rubber ring on it. So when you push the door, it'll hold the maximum force that was needed to open that door. Now, depending on where you live is going to depend on your ADA requirements, meaning American Disability Act requirements, your NFPA fire requirements. All of those things are going to come into play when you install a door operator or a door closer for that matter. Perfect example is here, we're supposed to have these things cranked down to 5 pounds of pressure is the maximum. Sometimes we can get away with having an exterior door that gets caught by the wind a lot. We can get an exemption for that and get it up to 15 pounds. 15 pounds was the industry standard, I believe, and it still is in a lot of states. However, I believe California and Colorado, don't quote me, I'm not quoting law or anything else here. I'm just saying if you live in those 2 states, you should probably do even more research to make sure you're setting everything to the correct setting, which is both opening and closing. Okay, you need to have that set up with a certain closing speed too. It needs to take 7 seconds from 90 degrees to closed and latched. Okay. Right. So now that we've got our LCN closer mounted on the door, this is just a typical mechanical closer. It's a very heavy duty mechanical closer. The beauty of this closer is that you can buy this kit
from LCN, and we can actually turn this into an operating door or an automatic door just by having this kit here. You can buy these parts separately. You can buy the closer individually and then upgrade it with the operator here. Or John has the complete kit that has the closer and the operator all in one package here. This big kit here. So Wayne kit's got 2 boxes. This still have 3 of them. Comes with our this is a 6440 XP. 4040 XP and the 6040 XP is the same. The kits both basically have the same thing. So if you do have one of these already installed at your location, then you can just grab this other kit over here, or if you're installing this brand new, the whole kit, the closer and the operator goes together in one box. And this is all the bigger that it is. It's a teeny tiny little unit, very compact, really, really nice for narrow, thin style aluminum glass storefront doors like this application here, but we don't have a giant header to mount a big operator up here, but we don't have a lot of meat on the door down here to mount anything either. This is going to be an optimal solution for doors just like this. Here you can see how big this operator is sitting in my hand. It's not very large at all. It's extremely small and compact. We're just going through the packing list here. And now John is going to take out the top mounting screw for the control arm. That actually gets replaced with a...
Just going to pause real quick 1 second right here. This screw right here is what's going to determine your spring force, if you will. So an Allen wrench on this little guy right here should increase or decrease the amount of spring tension, meaning if you take that tool and you push the door open and it's set at 27 pounds of pressure, that's obviously too much. We'll have to back this screw off, and then hopefully you back it off 10 or 15 turns and then go ahead and hit it again, and we should be back down into the good territory.
Larger bolt that comes in the kit. It's a little bit more heavy duty. We're showing how the operator actually attaches to the mechanical door operator, and that there's no gap in between that plate and the operator itself. Now,
this is where things get a little funky with the wiring. And this is yet again where a lot of locksmiths do not try and take on this type of work, because this portion is not in their skill set. It's not in their wheelhouse. Maybe you're not licensed to do it. I believe in states like California, you have to have a low voltage license to do any of this kind of stuff. Not in Colorado. So we're perfectly okay to do anything low voltage, as long as it's on the other side of the 120 volt side of things. So we can take everything from the power supply over. I would highly recommend not losing out on this work. I would highly recommend going and talking with another low voltage company, a security company, somebody that does cameras, CCTV, electronic access control. Anybody in any of those fields should be able to hook up low voltage wires like this, and you could actually partner together to be able to get a job like this done. John and I working together is the perfect example of that. I am the one who normally mounts all the hardware onto the door. John knows the wiring extremely well, and we both can fill in for each other's parts. However, it's much easier to do a complete project with 2 people who are very skilled at what they do, and both of those skills actually contribute to the job at hand.
John's going to go into some wiring. All right. Our green wire for normally open is going to go into number 5.
Green wire into number 5 for this application. Now,
if we're hooking up like access control,
he's going off of this particular application. He's also going to explain about access control. You can tie this into access control as well, meaning, what exactly does that mean? Well, that means that if I have an operator button outside and inside, and I come up to that door and I push the button and the door is locked, the operator is going to try and open the door with the door still being locked, and things are going to break. That's how you break things. So what he's explaining is that this can be tied into an electronic access system, meaning that he could go ahead and hook up an electronic strike into this particular terminal block, or into the power supply that would need to communicate with this. Then you would come up, you'd be able to push the button, it would unlock, or you'd be able to present a credential. It would unlock, you could push the button, and then it would go ahead and open up. Hopefully everybody's staying with me there and following me on that. You can't just put a door operator on and expect it to unlock the lock and open the door. That will not happen. You have to build an entire system to allow that to happen.
Or something in there. You could also use the actuator. Okay. Our next piece that we're going to hook up is.
So Mark has said you are out of compliance if a door closes faster than 3 seconds. So if it takes less than 3 seconds, and that's great. I appreciate that. That's Texas law. I believe ours is 7. It's a combination. It's like 6 seconds to the latching position and then 3 seconds to close, or some combination of that. It's like 4 seconds to the latching position and then 3 seconds to close after that. I'm not sure exactly where that is.
Code, Wayne.
Huh?
No door can close faster than 3 seconds.
Yes. Yes.
So, I mean,
Yep.
And that's where you get into the lawsuits of people having their hands slammed and stuff like that.
That's perfect. That's great. Thank you for explaining that. Here, you know what I tell my employees? I tell them, put your hand in the door. If you would let the door slam and put your hand in there, that's right where you want it to be. If you open that door and it slams shut and you wouldn't put your hand in there, that's not okay. So thank you for sharing that. So that's 50 statewide then. Can't close faster than 3 seconds. People lose fingers, people get injured when that happens. Great point. Thank you for that.
Going to be our wire bypass wire. A little jumper here. So notice how long these are. So if we insert it in, that is too long. That is an example of too long.
John's actually going to be giving you some low voltage tips and techniques. What he's showing is that when that wire is inserted down into the terminal block, there's still exposed wire, meaning that if those wires fray, it could touch its neighbor. When you're dealing with electronics, you don't want things to touch their neighbor. It's very, very bad. You want nice, clean fences in between everybody here. So he's going to trim that down a little bit so it sticks down a little bit further inside the terminal block. And then there's no chance for any kind of arc or sparking.
So we're going to trim these down a bit. And this is supposed to go between terminals 6 here.
Everything's labeled really clearly on these. I really like the way they have the wiring set out.
You could trim this down even further, make a tighter jump. We're gonna just leave what the manufacturer gave us.
Notice there's no bare wire exposed. Everything's down in the terminal
In
block.
small letters here, it says place BW in 6 and 9, between in 6 and 9. So even on this little tag here, it tells you where this jumper goes. All right, next we're going to wire in our motor enable switch. So these wires that came down from this little switch up here, well, there's only one place we can put them. Between pins 8 and 7. So again, make sure our wires aren't too long. Goes right on in there, makes that little wire vanish. That's excellent. Sure our strands are good now. All right, now we have everything hooked in where we need it to be. So now we're going to plug this little guy right into the door operator here. Beautiful. All right, now we're going to be bringing this wire over to the power. Was it the power supply? Yeah. So it's one of the power supplies we can use. This power supply, when you read these, this is a 24 volt output, 2.1 amps. This operates the operator only. If you are going to throw a mag lock or other electronic access up on the door, you are supply rated for your application. So if we're gonna run it.
Okay, so what John is explaining is that this particular setup and the stuff we have going here, out of the box, it will give you everything you need to make this unit work. Okay, if you're installing this on a door that's going to need full-blown electronic access, that's going to need a bigger power supply, that's going to be able to run more electronics, such as either a mag lock or electronic strike or a electrified lever or mortise body, you're going to have to upgrade to a higher power supply and abandon this and then power your unit off of that power supply. I wanted to make sure that that's clear, not trying to confuse anybody, but it's not going to be a good practice to isolate this one, run it this way, and then have your door hooked up to a separate power supply for your electronic access. You want to tie everything together.
A bunch of stuff at this door. To get rid of this, we're gonna be a big can power supply. Allegiant sells very nice power supplies that range over from 1 amp all the way up to 8 amp or more. So you want to make sure you have the correct number of amperage. Obviously, this is going to be 2.1 is what this supply is rated for. We're going to check with our device. We're going to add that piece in there. So if you have a mag lock that operates at 1 amp at 24 volts, and this device over here that runs at 2.1, you're going to want a 4 amp power supply. And you're going to some loss and a few other things. Use this power supply here for this application today.
All we're doing is just automating this door for this application. We just want to give you the information. If you're planning a full-blown electronic access project, this will integrate into it, but you need to know and plan ahead of time so that you have the proper amount of power and voltage to it. You would also say that it would not be a good idea to have this powered by this power transformer and then have electronic access powered by a different one and try and wire them together, right? They need to all have their own, or which way would you go with that?
You can have their own set up on there. It's not a problem. So you could power the operator with this one here and then another one for the mag lock. However, we're putting this into a wall outlet, and the power supply that we put up in the corner for, say, an electronic mag or a mag lock, right, or electric strike, that can also power this device. Use up less outlets on the wall. One electrician pops in for that. You could operate with a couple different things, but again, we're running everything from one place, say wherever all the wires and everything else go to, or right next to the door. The fewer number of cables that power things, the better. So the fewer number of power supplies and power stuff, the better.
Perfect. Just keep that in mind for your bigger jobs. You could use, if you're going to do a big run and have a server room, just run everything through that. But for this application and this standalone application, this is going to work just fine.
So on our terminal blocks here, we actually have some pretty neat features. So this actually has some built-in strain relief, which is nice, right? On our supply here, we have our DC negative. There's a third ground lug here if we use that, and then we have our positive lead here. The instructions actually don't show us using this power lug or this ground lug here, so we're not going to worry about it.
And they only gave us red and black, 2 wires from the kit that came from the manufacturer. These little guys here. So there was no third option.
So we decided to use our own wire instead of the one that came with it. It's completely up to you. Our wire meets or exceeds what was
Talk about this from
sent by the manufacturer. So it's up to you. This wire would definitely be 100% approved to make that power transfer over. I would not suggest going with anything less or thinner, obviously.
So we have most of this wire underneath this plate. This would be an example of what we don't want. So what we do want is as much wire under this plate as we can get. So sometimes what I like to do is take the wire like so, and I'll take it, bend it around the screwdriver a little bit, give it a little curve, give it a little bit of a curve, and then slide it like so. But curving in a way where it wants to be.
And then that's with the direction of the rotation of the screw to tighten it down.
It makes it easier that way. Why fight? Why fight it? Okay. So as we look here, it's going underneath that plate. It's as tight as we can get it here without breaking anything. Now we're gonna do the same thing to our red wire over here. Give it that little bit of a bend. You can also remove these two if it's helpful. Wrap it around your wire. Wrap your wire around it, and then put it all back together. Same thing as with the other stuff. I'm trying to keep this insulated jacket out from underneath the plate. Causes less problems. Okay. We're going to try to get our strain relief into here. So let's stick our wires through this little piece back here.
And these are all just really important little steps that a lot of people miss. Tucking that wire into the strain relief means that if that falls out, dangles, hangs, kids kick it, whatever, obviously it's only going to put up with so much abuse, but it is going to try and take it away from the weak point, which would be where the wire meets the connector here, and try and apply some of that pressure back here where the wire is a lot more stable.
That keeps them separated so they can't meander and find each other.
It also keeps it from, if someone comes along and yanks on this cord, it keeps it from pulling these terminals out. And then they're touching and they don't like wires touching together. All right. Plug it into the wall. There's the screw here. We can pull out the wall plate screw. And
I would highly recommend, if you're going to use that system, you pull out the wall screw and actually screw it in and make it as permanent as possible. Just got to think kids coming by, doinking with stuff, pulling stuff out, dogs, pets, people. You just never know. Never know what people are going to do. And if there's something there to mess with, it's going to get messed with.
bolt it into the wall if we need to. Cool. All right. Next piece on the instructions, we're gonna take off this little black cover. And we have some different buttons and lights and things like that. If you just look right up here. All right, our instructions here are actually printed on the board here. Ensure door is closed. Door is closed right here. Now we're going to press the calibration button twice, which is going to be this button here. Which one is it? It's going to be this calibration button. We're going to hit this button twice. Okay, now we're going to open the door the angle we want. So we want it about there. We're going to wait a couple seconds. It beeps. Blue light. Go. Indicated on there. Okay. All right. We can set our door opening speed. There are 5 available speeds: low, medium, low, medium, medium, high, and high. So we have 5 different opening speeds for this device. And then next, so on our button here, we're just gonna pull this tab. This is a red blinky light, tells us the battery's engaged. Up here on the device, we have a couple options. We can read this in with a delay, and we have our little potentiometer here. We can turn that, and it gives us from a 1 to 30-second delay. So when you hit our button, it can sit here and time out to 30 seconds before it kicks the door open. We don't want that. We want no delay. So we're going to hold this no delay button. Our light's going to come on indicating that we're ready for programming. We're going to hit our button here. Once that's done, the little light goes out. Now we're going to hit our button again. So this indicates haven't turned on our power supply to the running position. That beep tells us we did. Everybody again. It's gonna open the door.
Look at that.
Beautiful. Comes open to the position we want it. Gonna hold open for a given amount of time. They come closed. So we do have an option to go either 1 second or 5 seconds on the hold open. Okay. I believe we are on long hold open right now, so it's holding open for 5 seconds.
One, two, three, four, five. And then all of the other controls that we went through with the closing of the door and the speed of the closing of the door and the pressure, the pound force amount needed to push the door open. We went through all that and calibrated the closer properly before, so that we already know that this door is very controlled, both in the open with the back check. The wind's not going to catch it and whip it out of somebody's hands and pull this off the door. It's going to be very controlled. It's going to come closed within the parameters that it's supposed to. It takes about 7 seconds
About 7 seconds
to close.
All of your closing stuff is pulled through your door closer. The operator simply opens the door.
Yes, absolutely. All right, awesome.
Now we're gonna throw our cover on here, be done with the project.
Let's just throw the cover up on there. Get that one wire hanging, an antenna hanging out. And again, we'll get some surface mount to bring it higher, or we can bring it up to the ceiling and we could wall, however, surface mount it over to our outlet. Other than that, this is a completed installation.
For more information, scan the QR code and check out Locksmith.
All righty, ladies and gentlemen, do we have any questions, comments, concerns? Feel free to unmute your microphones. Just don't talk over each other or put something in the chat box. Nobody? I must have explained it well then. All right. I'll give people just a few minutes if you have any questions about door operators. Again, this is a light duty operator. This was put on our front door because we were contacted by a Legion to interact with the product, work with it, see how we liked it, do a demo. And so the first one we did is we put it on our shop door there. Now, with the amount of use that we see on that one, and it has an awning and stuff over it, I think it's fine. Normally, they would recommend that you do not install it in an outdoor application. I believe they are working on a weather-resistant, more weatherized outdoor application one, or exterior door application. For right now, this thing's really good for bathrooms. It's good for interior doors, office doors, things like that. We don't want to put this on a gym where you're going to have 500 people, big muscle face people coming in and you're jerking on that door all day long, just beating it to death. It's not going to survive that. You're going to need an Entermatic or a Ditech or you're going to need something big and heavy duty and really big for that. This would not work for that. So small, light duty applications, indoors only. Those are going to be all the things that you want to see with that. All this information is over at wayneslockshop.com. If you want to scan the QR code, we still are offering our lifetime membership for $250. If you're interested, let me know and we'll get you an invoice for that. Or you can join for $9.99 a month or $99 a year. Again, any final questions? I'm going to check the chat box. What about a surge protector? Great question. You could put this into a surge protector, but I believe it has protection built into it. If it's designed to screw directly into the socket, then I would think that it has to have some kind of surge protection on there. If you wanted to plug it into a surge protector and your customer would be okay with how that looks, coming off of a surge protector and then plugging that big box into it and having that over by the outlet, that's going to be up to your customer. I would definitely ask them first before I did it. I don't see any problem with it other than how it looks as a completed project. Thank you for your question, Matthew. All righty. And with that, any other questions, comments, concerns? Yes, do not tie into exit signs. Okay, excellent point. Thank you. We're not electricians, therefore we do not pull power into any of our power supplies, but definitely exit sign that has a lit up exit sign is a good sign for electronic access and door operators. It means you have power there. The problem with it is that you can't touch that power. You need to make sure you have a licensed electrician on site to be able to do that. So great points, great comments, great questions. I hope everybody can now feel a whole lot more comfortable with installing a door operator or the door closer itself. I hope you think longer and more about using products and stocking products on your truck that maybe aren't the cheapest products, but they're a better product that offers more upgrades and you can add and build it like Legos later. I've actually kind of switched some of my door closers that I keep on the truck, and now I keep a 4040 on there. I keep a couple of them on there as some of my go-to closers just for this particular application. If you think that there's a possibility that you could add an operator and electrify that door in the near future, it's a good idea to keep them on the truck. So any other questions in the chat? Any other questions from anybody on the Zoom meeting? All righty. With that, I will let you go. The next meeting will be with Chris. It's going to be covering antique safe restoration. I am so excited to do this. I've been wanting to do this one for a while, and I am extremely ecstatic to be able to do this with Chris. I think antique safes, after they have been refinished, are some of the most beautiful pieces of art that have ever been made. There is just as much, if not more, effort gone into hand painting one of these safes with the artwork that it demands than a piece of art that you would buy from an art gallery. So definitely interested in that. I put the link in the chat section. Go ahead and copy it if you need to. Grab it out of there, send it to yourself in an email, or go ahead and check Locksmith Nation. The Facebook group, there is a link up and working there. There is a link up and working on nso.com or Dave McOmie's page, since this is safe related. And I will post a link over on ClearStar as well. So you will have links to all of these pages through those sections. Why do I not put the link directly onto my Facebook page or publicly? Well, because people hack the group and do not behave very appropriately when it's an open source link. So it has to be put in the groups. For more information, check out the website below. Thanks for watching. If you're interested in Wayne's Lock Shop, check that out. And we will see you next week, Monday at 4 p.m. Mountain Standard Time.